I said, is this the man? Okay. Then he started to share his story. He lived in Singapore. He was American. I think he went on a business trip and he was going back because he heard his daughter, 13-year-old, had died, run over by a car back home. So he said he was just talking normally to us, and he said, "I'm just going to bury my daughter." At the moment you get kind of shocked and say, "Whoa, this is his reaction to it," and then you learn to be empathic. It doesn't Sometimes we know the story behind, like this example he told us, so he understood, like, wow, because he came and say, I'm sorry if I've been rude to you. But many situations we don't hear that. We don't know the story behind. And then I used to tell the crew, I said, you don't know, maybe they've been, it's a really tough time. So be empathic. They're not telling anything about you. They don't know you. So see what you can offer your best, because maybe that's what they need. This is what, yeah, you can make their day better. Yeah.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to No Have Cakes podcast. My name is Jim Sabellico, and today is Wednesday, and we have an awesome episode in store for you. As you may or may not know, Wednesdays is our full-length episode where I'm going to sit down with a special guest, and we're going to talk about some life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and let's have a good, real, raw conversation for you to take away some insights. It's one of my favorite formats of this show. Other formats, if you're new here, on Saturdays, I do something called a strategy sprinkle, which is a short version of our episode. It's meant to be practical, tactical advice to help you level up in your personal and professional life. And Mondays, I do a Mindset Monday, which is meant to be a short, quick, powerful, positive perspective. There's a lot of P's in there, but I made it through all right. A powerful, positive perspective to help you start off your week in a good way. And all of these really come together to give you a full life, man. No Half Cakes is what this show is called and what this is about. And it's what I want for you, is to be able to enjoy every part of your life. And that's relationships, your physical fitness, your finance, your business. And I think having a successful business isn't really that great if you have nothing to come home to, or vice versa. And really what I want for you is to have fullness in every area. So if you would do myself and yourself a favor before we go any further, hit the follow/subscribe button, so you don't miss out on anything that we are doing here, and give you the best possible advantage to have the full life that you are deserving and that you deserve. So without further ado, my guest today is a very special one, because she is someone who actually works together with me. And when I first brought this special guest of ours onto our team, to be honest with you, I forget what the position was. I don't remember if it was for ads or social, whatever the actual role was. But I do remember in our initial interview, the amount of joy and just positivity and just life that came through the screen was like mind blowing. I'm like, this person is joyous. And like, this is someone that I want to spend some time around and I want on the team. And during the course of the past year or so that we've been working together, she has gone on to take on any role I give her, and has gone to work with, some of my favorite people, and just bringing joy and positivity. And when I had the opportunity to have this conversation and just sit down and talk about the source of that joy and where so much just positivity and love for life comes from, I knew it was a conversation we had to have. So without further ado, Ms. Tati Galbier, I am so honored to A, have you in my life, and B, have you in this conversation. So again, thank you and welcome to the show.
Oh, Jim, thank you so much. And thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your show. It's such a pleasure. And of course, it's so nice to be able to have been working with you all this time. And yeah, to hear that from you, it's really nice. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. So, I think we can probably start with maybe a little bit of background into kind of where you've been through the years. And you've had some interesting work experience. And I would just love if you can give us a little bit of a background into how we got here.
Yeah, sure. Um, as work, I've started working as English teacher because that's what I used to know at the time when I was young. And after that, my dream was to travel the world, but I never imagined how I could do that. And somehow I got the opportunity to try out flight attendant. So I tried out, and easily everything flowed, and I worked for 13 years as a flight attendant in the UAE. I lived in Dubai for all this time working for an international company. And yeah, I had all this time working with them. In 2020, that's when my life kind of changed, shift, and I got back to my country. I'm from Brazil, and that's how I am in this niche now. I'm in this position working for marketing.
That's awesome. So, like, I'm so interested in being a flight attendant, not for like myself, but just because I feel like there's so much opportunity to talk to so many interesting people and meet people and get to spend a little bit of time with them, and then poof, they're gone, and then you get to meet new interesting people. Have there been like people that you've met over the years that have really stood out, or conversations that you might have had that just really were, you know, super interesting?
Yes. It's incredible because it's not only the passengers that we had that they are specials, that we never see them again. Also, the crew, which is people think that we always fly with the same people. No, we get new crew. You've never seen them again. They're going to be your family for the next, let's say, 3 days. Most of the flights were like 3 days. We go and come back. And we never see them again. Of course, some of them you do get in contact because we all lived in Dubai. So this life of meeting people and being so um, interesting and just a bit of a connection change your life. It's pretty nice. I do remember some situations, some of them actually that taught me a lot of things in just one connection.
Sure,
Um,
if you would, I'd love to hear what that might look like.
yeah, I was thinking of there's so many. Yeah. um, I did talk to one. He was a meditation teacher, and the funny thing, you have all these passengers in front of you. You have no idea who they are and if they have something that you can exchange. But throughout the flight, you probably don't talk to 99% of them, right?
Right.
But somehow, always you end up having this conversation with this person and you have something for them or they have something for you. It was incredible. Sometimes I was like, wow, I was supposed to talk to this person because he brought me something. So yeah, this meditation teacher, I remember I was in the beginning of my like spiritual practice, and I was just interested in those things. I was going through a rough time in my personal life, and I was talking to this man. I had no idea he was a meditation teacher, and somehow we spoke about the food because I was serving him in business class, and somehow it came up of he told me about a book, and then I spent the whole flight speaking to him, and he gave me so many tips that I actually followed. Yeah, I used it later on, and it helped me a lot, and I still remember this man.
Wow, that's awesome. I think that speaks a lot to like how we're around all these people in our everyday life that we just walk past because we don't think we have a lot in common. But I guess in that environment, you're almost sort of trapped, right? You're with 150 people or whatever, you're in this area with them where everyone's kind of stuck there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is. Especially if you're taking international flights, that's going to be maybe 12, 14 hours or more. Um, but being open to just being a human and having a conversation with someone and seeing if there is some commonality there, and not being better than or not being exclusionary, but just being open to talk to other people, right? And that's amazing how much opportunity there is for connection and growth and conversation when everyone can just be who they are and kind of level the playing field and just talk to each other, which seems like such a simple thing.
Yeah, no, it is a simple thing, but through the years, of course, I saw these faces, right? In the beginnings, everything's so new, so interesting, and kind of scary as well. And you don't understand what people talk to you, what do they mean? Because we're all from different backgrounds, right? And there was a phase that okay, you understand, you learned that this is how people are, different cultures. And there's a phase as well which people don't really have patience anymore. I'm talking about the flight crew, right? They judge straight away because they see the main behaviors of people and they say, okay, they're going to be the same. They don't have anything for me. They come with this kind of attitude of like, oh, it's just another flight. And you miss so much, so many opportunities when you do judge people like that. Um, I used to come on the flight for 6, 7 years. I was a supervisor, so I used to manage one of the cabins, sometimes economy or business class. So I had the team to take care of. Right, they were mostly way younger than me, and we had this difference of um, generations as well, um, and a lot of them would come with this, oh my gosh, we're going to this country, or oh, I don't, I'm tired, or they have their personal lives. Everyone has something. And I used to say, I used to bring a quote into the briefing. People thought probably I was weird, but I used to bring a quote and I used to hang on the galley. I remembered it, so I went after to bring it to you here. It says, in this life, we're all just walking up the mountain, and we can sing as we climb, or we can complain about our sore feet. Whichever you choose, we still got to do the hike. So I decided a long time ago, singing made a lot more sense. So yeah, I used to put that in the galley, saying, guys, I know sometimes this is hard, and if you need to talk to someone or to me, please do. But let's have fun. Let's have fun. Connect to someone. I'm sure there is something someone has for you here. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. You set the mood, so it was, yeah.
Well, I really love that. And I think that there's a lot of practicality to that where that's not just true at work, but, in life in general, we're all going through stuff. And I think especially when you can create the environment where it's not, you're not allowed to complain about your feet, right? So if your feet hurt, cool. Tell me, hey, listen, my feet hurt. Cool, mine too. Let's change our socks and our shoes and let's get back to work and have fun while we're doing it. But just kind of creating the environment where we're not going to stay complaining. And I think that's awesome that you brought that to that. I actually never knew you were a supervisor. That's really, congratulations to you. That's a good achievement there. And I think that says a lot about, your ability at this point that I've seen to kind of jump into any scenario, and as you're kind of explaining this, I'm realizing a lot more alignment when you have to work at a high level and provide a high level of service and care for people for, a good amount of time with people you may have just met, with people you may never actually see again, and caring for people that you may never know their name, but you're expected to provide them love and care for, a short period of time when you're in their life. But just looking now at how that's, sort of grown into, maybe it's with a new client that you take on or a new task or a new thing that says, hey, can you handle this? And it's never met with no. It's never met with that's a terrible idea. It's never met with negativity. And congratulations, because it's really an honor to work alongside someone who has that level of empathy and attitude and appreciation for life. So I just wanted to give you some honor for that because it makes the whole team better. And B, I'm curious, like, was that a thing that you've always had? Like, was that a trait that you always had even before that? Or was that something that you really learned and grew by doing it?
I'm not too sure. Some people say that I'm always like happy, but I think I had this a lot of how can I say not self-conscious learning about myself, right? More like I needed
Self-aware?
yeah, self-awareness. Yes, self-awareness. I think that was I I like to read a lot about this and um, yeah, be aware of my attitudes and how I can be better for people around me. And of course, I understood when I turned supervisor, it changed a lot the way I saw things because I understood that it depended on me about the mood of the flight. It was not always before you had someone on top of you that used to, oh, this flight is terrible because we have a boss, that keeps, bringing this negative mood. So I understood that this is about me now. Like I'm the one that had to bring this first, so I can expect something from someone. So I learned a lot, like my triggers and how I could deal with them. There was one situation, if I may share.
Sure, please do.
Um, there was one customer in business class. He was very, very rude from the beginning with the crew, saying things that people did not understand. But some crew used to get triggered, and they used to come to me and say, "This guy, I'm not serving him. He's treating me really bad." And it is something sensitive, right? Like, what are you gonna do? You still have to do your work in a way, in a polite way. We don't know what he's going through. We don't know why he's doing that. So I learned a big lesson that it's not about you personally. They don't know you. You're in uniform. Of course, it could be about the company. It could be something on him, right? On them. You usually the way we say things, it's more about us and not about the person. So people get triggered a lot on flights. And I remember after takeoff, after like people really said they don't want to work on that side, they don't want to work with this man. And we have a bar at the back of business class, like we prepare drinks, and I used to stay there. And this man came and he started drinking. He was not talking in the beginning. And then I said, "Is this the man?" Okay. Then he started to share his story. He lived in Singapore. He was American. I think he went on a business trip and he was going back because he heard his daughter, 13-year-old, had died, run over by a car back home. So he said he was just talking normally to us, and he said, "I'm just going to bury my daughter." At the moment you get kind of shocked and say, "Whoa, this is his reaction to it." And then you learn to be empathic. It doesn't Sometimes we know the story behind, like this example. He told us. So he understood, like, wow, because he came and say, I'm sorry if I've been rude to you. But many situations we don't hear that. We don't know the story behind. And then I used to tell the crew, I said, you don't know, maybe they've been, it's a really tough time. So be empathic. They're not telling anything about you. They don't know you. So see what you can offer your best, because maybe that's what they need. This is what, yeah, you can make their day better. Yeah.
That's an amazing story and such a good point because, you know, I think I've said this on this podcast once before, but it bears repeating. When you are a new driver, a lot of times they'll put a sticker on the back of the car that says, "Please be patient, I'm a new driver." We don't walk around with those stickers that say, "Please be patient, I have to go home and bury my daughter." Like, that's the thing. You don't expect that. You just think this guy's a jerk or this lady's a jerk. And we have these little interactions every day. And a lot of times, or every day, we're not stuck with this person. inside of an airplane for the next 12 hours to get that side of the story. We just happen to pass by on the street, or we see this person in the store and we say that person's a jerk. And either we think we did something wrong where we carry that ourselves for the rest of our life, or we think this person is a jerk and they're an angry person. We create this whole story about this person and we judge them on that based on no evidence. And, I think your story there brings such a good point that we never really know what someone's going through. And for you to be able to not take it personally, right, that just because they might have an attitude or they might have a bad mood or they might be in a bad spot, that it's not necessarily your fault. They just met you, right? It's nothing personal. But to be able to still show up with a smile on and give them your best because they might need that is really impactful. So, man, I guess you never really know what someone's going through or what someone's carrying, but it really does illustrate how important it is to still show up, and you might be the only reason why that person continues to go on. Like, I don't want to be too morbid about it, but you never know like what someone else is carrying. And when you have the opportunity to impact someone for the best, you should do it. Like, it's not costing you anything to be kind, but a little bit of pride and ego, maybe, right? You're going to put your pride aside and say, I'm willing to still be nice to you, even if you're not nice to me. Might just be the thing that they need to turn their life around.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
We got this morbid stories because that was kind of shocked to us, or me. It did taught me a lot of lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to know that you have to go home and do that. Just thinking for the guy for a second here.
Yeah.
Like, to be far away from your family when that event happens and to not be there for it, it's just, and I'd probably be in a pretty bad mood too. Wow.
Yeah. And we had different as well, because we did have a lot of people carrying deceased family members on the flight, and I've seen different reactions. I had a family, they were very sad in the beginning, but they're drinking and laughing a lot. This is a reaction that they did have, for their family members, and we don't judge. You learn that everyone has different reactions, and it's not about us, it's not about you, and it's not about separating, like me separating myself from this person, but actually being empathic and empathetic about it, and and do not judge the people's reaction, I guess.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times too, when you can sort of remove yourself from it just a little bit, you can see how it can actually impact you in a positive way. Like, you can sort of separate yourself from it being your fault, or from you causing them to be upset, but maybe they process their emotions in a different way that you can then take some inspiration from and look at. Maybe I can learn something from this and move forward. And I think that's a really cool thing to do.
Yes, inspiration. And I see inspiration everywhere. I think every week I have something different. Even especially from you, Jim. I think you bring a lot of points that make me think through the week, and always trying to be better. And
Well, A, I appreciate that. Thank you. And B, I think that's our job. Like, that's our responsibility here. We don't know how long we're going to be here, right? Like, God willing, we both wake up tomorrow and have another chance. But I don't know that. Like, you talk about this dude had to go home because his daughter got hit by a car. Like, I can't guarantee that that's not going to happen to me later when I go for a walk. I hope it doesn't, but I choose to live my life in a way that if that does happen, I don't have regrets. And I don't want to hold grudges, and I don't want to say, man, I could have done X, Y, and Z, but I didn't because I did what? Like, I wasted my time, or I wasted my talents and treasures, like, for what? And I think we have a responsibility here to, if we can positively impact other people, our community, our businesses, our personal relationships, like, we have a personal responsibility to do that, and to not do it, I think is really arrogant. And we think oh, we'll have more time, or I'm not that important. But like each and every one of us, I think, has so much of a unique gift to give, right? And how often do you see people who have so much potential and so much to give, they just don't, because either they don't believe it about themselves, or they're stuck in an environment where they think it's all their fault. And, I think getting around other people who are willing to share, right, willing to be that environment, like you said, you would bring that quote to your team meeting and help spread that atmosphere, right? Those people could have had a different supervisor who didn't bring that level, and they would have trained up 5, 6, however many people there were, who would have had a different mentality. But because you were willing to show up there and you were willing to bring in a quote that maybe was awkward to bring in, but like you were willing to show up, you've impacted those people's lives, and those people then went on to serve the entire flight, and they gave them a more positive experience, where then those people got home or to their destination, wherever they were going, and they had a better day. And like that starts with you being willing to show up there and be a little bit embarrassed or a little bit awkward to say, hey guys, we're going to climb this mountain and we're going to sing along the way. Like you not caring about being judged or being criticized or being laughed at or being whatever. Think about how many people are living a better life because you were willing to stand up and do that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Honor to you for that.
I was a bit of a clown sometimes as well. I remember we used to have this flight to Bangladesh and back to Dubai in one day. We didn't used to stay there. So we used to leave our houses at 7:38 in the morning and be back at 1 a.m. So it was the
Wow.
whole day working, like nonstop. There was no rest, right? It was 4.5 hours going and 4.5 coming back, like really tiring. And day flight, everyone's awake, so you don't stop serving. um, this company was like we had a lot of work during. So I remember the flight back, we were always so tired, and people were like, okay, I can't take it anymore. I used to be that. Do you remember that Mowgli? What's the name of that movie? Um, from the Scouts, Mowgli boy, the one from the forest. No, that
Yeah, I'm not
he
going to be able to
brought
help
up.
on this one.
There's like a Disney movie. No, there's a Disney movie. Then and there's this scene where he needs honey, and he tells the bear to climb, and there's a lot of bees around, but he's like, you're almost going, go there, and he's motivating him so much. It's funny because I used to say that, guys, we're almost home, and they used to look at me and laugh like, really, we still have 2 hours. Yeah, but like, in a funny way. I used to be a clown because we know there's no more motivation. We get to a time, it's tough for me as well, but let's at least make it funny, make it change the strategy, because at any point something might happen and I need this crew with me. I would need them in an emergency, medical emergency, in a plane emergency. And this is what will bring us, we need to be together for the situations, right? So it's as well for that.
Yeah. How important is it? I imagine you trained for those emergency scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Like, how
Every
important is that training? I'm curious what that looks like.
Very important. We had assessments every year. We used to go for a 2-day training in the training college. Emergency, as we see, like in a plane crash, ditching, we had to do this whole scenario. We had a plane, which was a mock up that used to move around. We see smoke inside. We used to shout, and we have to do everything right. And it's for 13 years doing that every year. It's like your brain, you just know it. It's Yeah, medical as well. We do medical emergencies, which we do all the mock-ups, all the situations, and medical emergencies happen a lot on board. And I used to like to be the one handling it. But yeah, some people are not too comfortable with it, but I used to like. And we have all these procedures we need to know by heart. everything. It's just memorizing and doing it again and again and again. It was fun, but yeah, a little bit of pressure every
Yeah,
year.
that's amazing. So I'm curious for a couple things, if I could ask. My first question to you would be, do you think that there's any inspiration that you've taken from your interaction with people, serving as an attendant on a flight, to how your normal interactions are now with someone you pass by on the street?
Yes, I think the biggest example was the one I gave you, about you don't know who they are. You, we tend a lot, or in my experience, I tend a lot to judge first, like someone on the street if something bothers me, right? Um, and flying, it did teach me that it's people are brought up different than you are. You know, the people in your community. Um, Especially now being back home, I felt in the beginning like I felt, no, I'm going home. I'm Brazilian. I know how people are, you know. But I felt like a foreigner here because of that. You know, you don't know. You'll never know what people are going through, and to be open to the interaction as well, because I had amazing interactions before, which, as I said in the beginning, wow, if we hadn't said this word, we would not understand that. Yes, we should have talked. You know, I had something for you that you were looking for, or the other way around. The flight crew, and a lot of those long flights, we used to stay like 4 hours with one person because other people were resting. And some people say, "Oh, I don't really like this person," or they're so different than me. We don't really have something to talk to. I don't know how. I always found a way. There is always something that you are like, you can connect with this person always. You start asking about them with a real interest. You know, with if you have a real interest about someone, there will be something like the reason for this connection. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful when you see outside and you're like, wow, how amazing this is. So yeah, I don't believe in what's the word that we use, things happening occasionally.
Well, like a coincidence?
Yeah, there's no coincidence.
Yeah.
There's no, yeah. This is the biggest thing that I learned. Everything is there for a reason. Every good or bad, or that we put this judgment of being good or bad, but it's
Yeah. And
actually, yeah. That's another thing that I learned a lot from my experience.
I think there's a lot of that has to do with you and your ability to receive it. Like, not saying you specifically, but I mean you in general.
Yeah,
Um, like, I think you need to be willing to accept the fact that life is happening for you. Like, you have to be willing to see it, the good and the bad, right? And believe that what is deemed bad today will eventually be used for good at some point in the future. You just have to be willing to ride that out, and not fall into the trap of thinking, man, my life is so terrible because this happened. But it's a thing, right? Whatever that thing was, whatever the bad moment that happened was, at some point in the future, you'll either learn a lesson from it, or it will have prevented you from going down a road you shouldn't have gone. But like, the ability to have faith and to just understand, like, you're going through life. Don't just go through the motions, but allow yourself to be a active part of it, right? To be willing to have conversation when, like, that little voice inside your head says, say hi to that person or compliment them because you like their shoes, right? There might be these little things that pop up in our head all the time that we say, I'm not going to say that, that's awkward. But I was flying home from Dallas a couple weeks ago, and it was an early flight, and I'm sharing the story because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. And I let me back up a step. Flying to Dallas, I was flying Southwest, and Southwest doesn't allow you to choose your seat. You basically just get in a boarding group, and then you pick whatever seat you want when you get on the plane. I checked in late to that, and I was like one of the last groups to get on, and it was a full flight. And I'm like, damn, this is gonna suck. So I get on the plane, and about halfway down the aisle, I make eye contact with the attendant who was standing in the emergency room, the emergency row exit seat, and I gave her like the look, and I was like, "Is that seat open?" And she just gave me like the nod. I was like, jackpot, because it had like all the nice extra room next to it.
Yeah.
So I got down there, and she stepped out, and I stepped in, and I was like, score, got a nice comfortable seat for this trip. And I said, man, on the way back, I am very intentionally going to make sure that I check in promptly at 24 hours before the flight, so I get into an early group so I can get a better choice. So I check in for the flight, and I got like maybe a B12 or something like that. So it was better than I was, but still kind of in the middle. And I see this button on the app says, pay $50 to upgrade to priority boarding. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I don't know if I want to spend the money. It should be fine. Like, I'll still get a good seat. I won't hit it. Then, like, I kept seeing the button pop up, like a little notification on the phone. I'm like, man, something's telling me to press this button. So I open up the app and I press the button. I still remember I was standing right on my friend's front lawn when I pressed it. So you're at $50. I'll pay for it. I got seat, boarding group A1. Spent I'm the first dude on the flight. I'm like, all right, awesome. Like, I will choose any seat I want now. Perfect. So it was an early flight back home, and I get there, and I'm standing in A1, and first they let on anyone who's like in a wheelchair or who needs help boarding. Those people go on first. But before that, this dude went on, taller than me, covered in tattoos, like he's got his German Shepherd with him. The definition of a dude you don't generally approach who doesn't want to like have a conversation. Most people are like, yeah, I'm probably just going to leave that guy alone, right? That's the outward appearance. He gets on first because apparently with a service dog, you get on first. So these people all go on first, and I'm like, all right, I'm still going to go on when they board in a second. So I get on, and he is sitting front row, middle seat, and his dog is sitting toward the window. And my first inclination was to ask, can I sit next to you? Because part of me is thinking, I'm a dog lover, I'm a dog person. I know I can sit here, leave the dog alone, like give the dude his space and make sure the dog is respected, because I'm sure people are going to be like, can I pet your dog? So I was like, I know I'm not going to be that person. Let me just ask. So I asked if I could sit here, and he looked at me and hesitated for a second and then said, sure. So, all right. So I sat there, and we started talking about the dog and where he was from, and we started having conversation. And about 15, 20 minutes into this flight, we got into the deepest level of conversation. We started talking about life and all this stuff. And I don't want to share too much of this gentleman's personal life here with the world, but like, we got deep. When I say like we're crying, we're talking about life. And can you just imagine the optic of two dudes who are 6'4", 6'5", with a German Shepherd with a muzzle on, like three people who look generally unapproachable, who don't want to have this conversation, all sitting together in the front row of a seat. We have to imagine like it's 6 o'clock in the morning. People must be like, who are these people having this heart-to-heart conversation, like laughing, crying in the front row of a seat, in the front row of the plane. And I share all that story to say, outward appearance, either one of us look like unapproachable, like two big dudes you don't want to approach, you don't want to, whatever. And for whatever reason, I said, let me hit that button. And for whatever reason, I said, hey, do you mind if I sit here? And I didn't judge him. I didn't judge him by his outward appearance. I didn't judge him by his race, his tattoos, his dog. I judged him as a person. Mm-hmm. Or I didn't judge him. It's a person, right? Let me sit here and talk to you as a person and find out what our commonalities are. And I was actually messaging him on Instagram, a couple days ago. Like, this is a person who, had I not been willing to have the conversation with him, be a human, like, he maybe not had that interaction. And I like to think he had a slightly better day after that. I had a better day. Like, we had the opportunity to spend 3 hours sitting next to each other, And now because of that, because we're both open to receive and both open to not judge each other and just be humans, like we went on to have better days. And I think that there's so much magic that can happen when you allow yourself to be a little bit open, be willing to be a little bit vulnerable, be willing to talk to someone, right? To approach them, to just share some life together. And I hope that wasn't too much of a ramble of a story, but I felt honored to have met this gentleman, honored to do life, and I just thought how cool it was that you get these opportunities to meet people, but so often we just put on our headphones, put our face in a book, watch a movie, we ignore the people around us because we want to focus on our own little world, but we miss out on so much, and the people around us miss out on so much, and we continue to be in this environment where we're pissed off at each other, we're judging each other, we're hating on each other. But meanwhile, if we would just be open to have these conversations and listen to the people around us and share freely, how much better would we all be because of it?
Yes. Wow, Jim. It's incredible. It's those interactions is they are what matters. And I am in a position in my life right now that I am realizing that a lot. Even though at my work I did bring this and try to connect with people, I have that side of me as well when I'm traveling alone to be, on my, like, I don't want to interact. And I do have sometimes this that I don't want to see people. And since I got back, I've been working online and I am in a city that I didn't live before. So I didn't know anyone, just family members. And I did not make that effort to getting to know people. So I've been here 3.5 years, and I say I don't have a social life. And I'm realizing how important when we look back, those, imagine you remember that interaction. If you stayed there just reading your book or doing something that the time would pass. But what really matters are those interactions with people, even with family, with people. That's what we're doing here. When I got really inspired when I met you about your story, the no half cakes, because this is I'm at this point in my life that I thought, like, no, I can live by myself. I don't really, I like to do my things at home, quiet. But what you'll remember, the fun you'll have, or the deep connections, and people will teach you things. It's not the books. It's not, I love reading, but it's the connections with them that you will put that in practice. And being far, this is something else as well, being far from the family, I realized coming here and being closer to family, they will be the ones to teach you more. A lot, actually, because you get triggered with, all your traumas. And this is the time of your life that you practice that because it's deeper. And yeah, I'm at this point realizing that, yeah, those are the moments.
Yeah, and how just important they are. Like we talked earlier about how interesting it is to be, stuck in this little airplane with these people for 6, 12, 14 hours, whatever it is. But, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking, like, we are on this planet with these people for the next X amount of days or years. Why is it different? Like, we are here sharing this reality in this world with other people. And we somehow feel like we're okay with just shutting people out and then just being selfish and just doing whatever we want and excluding the fact that other people are also in this community, in this town, in this business, where you look at, hey, how can I just be open to having a conversation and seeing, hey, how can I show up for you today? And I think it's such an amazing part when we stop looking at me, and start looking at us. Not just what do I need, but like, what do we need as a community, as a population, as a team? And I think when all of us show up with that level of humility and selflessness and being willing to share and to give and to listen and to talk and to just laugh together and live together, because we're all sharing this same experience, but we all have such different perspectives on it. And I see so much power in sharing those perspectives and understanding, hey, how does your culture do this? How does your family do this? It doesn't make one right or wrong, right? But there's something to be learned there, because none of us are perfect. None of us have all the answers. But when we can share and we can live out loud, I think that there's so much wisdom to be gained and so much depth of life that you get when you're willing to do that.
Yes, yes, I can agree. This was the parts that I liked most, to be close to people with different perspectives and cultures. My best friend in Dubai was Indian, and it was very, very different. I used to be part of their ceremonies and their lifestyles. But instead of looking all the different things, we see how we are the same.
Yeah,
It's the coolest part, yeah. How we're
I
all
agree.
one, like all human. Yeah.
Yeah. And just because something might look different from the outside looking in, a lot of times, like, the actual principles are so much the same, or we have the same needs, right? But we focus on so much of the surface level stuff. We don't stop to realize how similar we all are and how similar our cultures are in a lot of ways. And I think that there's a lot of ways for us to bond together and to better show up for each other when we're open to that. So, man, that's such a cool experience, and I thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's something I would love to do, honestly. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, two final questions, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Mhm.
I have a feeling you'll know what they are. Question number one: if you had a piece of advice to share with someone to live a slightly better day, what would that be?
For someone to have a better day,
Yeah,
just put yourself a bit further from the situation itself, because it's not the end, right? Everything passes. And if you're having a bad day because of what's happened to you, it's good for us to look and ask ourselves, what is my responsibility in that? What can I do in that situation? Is it always happening to me, or I have a responsibility in that? In a way, in case of, like, can I change something? If I cannot, just accept how it is. And I know it's easy to say, but yeah, remove yourself from that focus of the problem or the bad day, and ask, like, what are we doing all here, right, in this world? Like, so that's why sometimes the spirituality is helps so much in our daily lives, because it removes you from focusing on one bad day, or
yeah,
it's a bigger picture.
100%. And how you can show up to support the greater good,
Yes.
right? Not just you and your individual life and
Yes.
let that be the sole focus, but like, how is that playing a part in the bigger picture for everybody else?
Yes.
That's so good. So last question is, if we're celebrating life together, what is your favorite choice of cake?
Ah. Whew. Okay. I like to have strawberry and meringue in it. I don't know if you have a meringue. You know meringue,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
And strawberry. It has to have both.
Okay. Interesting. It's not something I've had, I think, in a very long time. Usually it's, I think, with coconut is the last time I've had meringue. Um, Strawberry. I'll definitely have to check that out. Is
Yeah.
that like a local type of dish?
Yeah, it's like old style birthday cake. That was some time ago. People don't really make them anymore. Now it's all the fancy, different things. Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
traditional.
traditions are awesome. I think we should honor those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of honor, again, I would just want to honor you for doing this. I really appreciate this opportunity to kind of have this conversation, and I do believe I've taken some stuff out of this, and I do hope that people who listen to this will as well, especially about how to show up for each other and how to listen and just be willing to live life together. So I just wanted to, again, thank you for this conversation, and give honor to you for being here and sharing so freely. So thank you. I appreciate you. And any final words?
Thank you so much, Jim, and for being open to getting to know a different person as well on the other side of the screen, right? Because this is how we connected. You were open to that, and yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I hope I contributed to some inspiration.